Hello, this is Melissa. It is Real History, and today is the 31st of October. That's Halloween, if you go in for the dark stuff. And I am talking today with Mikhail in Ireland. You just got home from work. It's late afternoon there, and I wanted to launch right in to first where you are in Ireland and how long you've been there.
Okay, I live in Cork at the moment. So far I'm in Ireland 24 years almost. I used to live in Kerry before, but I am in Cork now almost 20 years.
Okay.
So it's south of Ireland.
So you told me that you had spent half of your life in Russia, the first half, and then half of your life in Ireland, pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much. Almost half of life in Ireland now. It's been a long time.
When we talked a few weeks ago, you were telling me some interesting stories about growing up in Russia and what was going on then in Russia when you were a young man. And so if you want to give a little background there.
I was born in Soviet Union. I was born actually in Voronezh region, which is close to Ukrainian border.
So I don't know why you go in and out. Sometimes you're really loud and clear. I don't know if it's the way you're holding the phone, but...
Okay, it's probably my phone. I tried to...
Okay.
So I was born in Voronezh, which is close to Ukrainian border. It's kind of south of Russia. But eventually my parents, they brought me back to Ural Mountains. So I grew up in Ural Mountains. It was a military city. So my dad served as a conscript 2 years in that city. So they met each other with my mom and they decided to move in there. So I grew up in that city. That city actually was closed during Soviet Union and still closed right now as we speak. You need to go to that city, you would need a pass. It's a military city. So in that city, so they were doing this nuclear warheads, nuclear enrichment. And basically I grew up in that city. I was surrounded with this military everywhere. So, that kind of atmosphere. So you could hear in the middle of night, shooting, soldiers training, I have that kind of memory. And then when it came to close to Soviet Union collapse, I have more memories about it, My most memorable times about Soviet Union when it was close to collapse, It was difficult. Basically, we had food stamps, we had food shortages, I experienced it all,
Food shortages, and this was the very, very late 80s?
It was very late 80s, so it started when Gorbachev came to power. That was 1985.
Okay.
So every year it was harder and harder. It was getting harder and harder. So by the year 88, 89, 90, it was already difficult to find, like food, basic foods. It was a lot of hardship, It was not only food, it was clothing as well. We had stamps for clothes, so many shoes, like per few months, so many pair of pants for, 6 months or so, I remember every month they would give us, for example, 2 bottles of vodka, 2 bottles of wine, 5 boxes of cigarettes, so much butter, It was food rationing. I remember the times that, I had nothing to eat. At times, I used to go house to house. And, of course, people would always offer you something to eat, And I was only delighted if they offer you because, my mom, they were separated. So she was working 2 jobs and it was a big struggle, So I remember hardship.
You mentioned a little bit of the food shortages and the food stamp system when we talked before, and what occurred to me then, you're reminding me now, is that the vodka, wine, cigarette ration seemed pretty generous, but the food...
Yes. But food was scarce, you know. I remember, maybe you could Google, you could see images when Soviet Union collapsed, empty shelves. So you go to the shop and you see basically one item for entire shelf. There is nothing in there. And entire distribution of food was, it was a way in, you know, by way. So you come to shop, you ask them for butter, they way out. It's not like it was prepackaged now, as we see in supermarkets, you know. You could see a lot of shelves, they were just empty, there was nothing in there.
Backing up before then, when your father was stationed, when he was conscripted in this military city, what was his attitude about the Soviet Union and the military? Do you recall any of his attitudes or sentiments?
Mm-hmm. I recall his attitudes. My family, it was, you know, like split opinions. But back then he couldn't express his attitude. Mm-hmm. Only after Soviet Union collapsed, he openly was saying that he hated Soviets, you know. All of this, he got it from granddad. So his granddad, you see, he was in Gulag. He had his own windmill, like in the 30s. And when Stalin, when he was, you know, making this collective farms, so they basically were taking away businesses from peasants, you know, from the farmers. They basically offered him either you surrender and continue to work on your place as a worker, or, you know. So he refused. They took him away. And few brothers, as far as I know, he is the only one who survived Gulag. So he came back.
Really? Wow.
So my father spent entire childhood in his house. So he got many insights about communists. But you see, like my granddad, his father, he was pure communist.
So it skipped a generation.
Yeah, like he basically he ended up being homeless himself because his father was in Gulag, and my father was telling me that he was begging around villages for food. That was before Second World War. But yet he became like communist. He became so brainwashed. Mm-hmm. You know.
Does your father have any idea why his father, growing up, you know, with the memories of the Gulag being passed to him, and does he have any idea why he took in that propaganda?
He told me that because it was basically propaganda. You see, it was very, very powerful. You know, mm-hmm. You know, like Soviet and Russia propaganda, one of the best propaganda in the world. Mm-hmm. You see, they are masters at it. So I guess like he was very young. He went to the war against Germans, so that was even more. So he became more communist after that. So he came back injured, but alive. You know.
Okay.
So he just reinforced during the battle against Germans. He just reinforced his beliefs into Soviets. You know. Uh-huh. So the Stalin portrait was everywhere in his house. You know.
But then your own father, growing up with this thoroughly indoctrinated communist, he didn't take with him, even though he had to pretend.
No. I think my dad, he was individual. I think he was suffering even after Soviet Union collapsed. He basically had a problem with alcohol. Mm-hmm. I remember him always drunk when I was a child. You know, like they were separated. I almost never saw him in the house. But when I came back from army myself, he actually sobered up. he sobered up for 2 years, and I couldn't recognize the man. He was so intelligent, and basically he couldn't fit in that society,
Mm-hmm.
He was saying that I'm not related to these people. Maybe that was one of the reasons he was like, drinking, whatever, He had strong opinions about Soviets. I think it was all from his granddad, because he told the truth, what it was before. My dad, he was telling me after his childhood, after the war, he was born in 1950.
In 1950?
Yeah, in 1950. And so when he grew up, back then, this Voronezh area, it was a big battlefield in there. It was like many abundant weaponry in there. Remember, he was saying that they were playing on the fields. They could find, German rifles, and it was plenty of it. He told me he brought rifle home, and my granddad gave out to him, and he had to throw the rifle. Basically, there was a big, massive casualties in that area, and right now they still find weaponry over there, That was his memories about his childhood.
So I just looked this up. Voronezh is Voronezh, and it said it's an administrative center of Voronezh Oblast in southwestern Russia.
Oblast, that's region. Yeah.
And then it straddles the Voronezh River and flows into the Don River.
Yeah,
this is it's a region that connects western Russia with the Urals and Siberia.
Yeah, well...
Or the railway does, I guess.
Railway, but it's far away from Siberia, It's closer. It's very close to Ukrainian border.
I see it now. I see the map. Okay, there's Ukraine, and way over here. Okay, there's...
And they actually, people are talking there, they have the same, like the Ukrainians who speak with their accent. So in Voronezh region, they have the same accent, like Ukrainians.
Okay,
They're very, very same people, their mentality.
That is interesting, and I think we should talk about that, Ukraine and the same people there. But first, so you have the grandfather who is really, he's a communist. He believes it all. And then your great-grandfather, no, because he was in the gulags. And your own father, no, but you didn't have that much experience with him when you were young. You were with your mother. Yep. And you yourself really believe, because of the indoctrination and the propaganda, that the Soviet Union is the best of the best.
Yes. When I was a child, I remember, in the school, it was like, you get up, you're going to school. The first thing in the morning, there is a sun. And basically, if you translate the sun, it's like, it's like you question yourself, how is it I'm so happy? And I'm the luckiest person to be born in Soviet Union, If you get up every morning, you listen to the sun, of course you will be brainwashed, and,
Do you still remember the words and the tune and all that to that song?
Yes, but I'm trying to translate it, and we had to put plenty of songs like that, so, and on top of that, like in school, they always show us, the propaganda was, we had movies. They would show a movie about somebody in the West. Remember, somebody homeless, and they used to say, like, look, majority of people in the West, they live like that. Like, we were terrified. Just think. West, like, we were like, they were showing us images, like, about religion, for example. They would show some sect, some baptized sect, and the way things they do, kind of terrible things. And so they were brainwashing us that, all the religious people are like that, like, the bad people. So the propaganda was very effective. And so, like, if you go in a school, in Soviet school, I remember the school, first thing when you open the door in the school, you see big instructions. There is a picture of atomic bomb, mushroom clouds. And there is instruction what to do if the mushroom cloud, explosion happened. It was always like Americans, they're gonna strike us. And, and we had this, underground, when you go hide from the bombing. And we had kind of trainings as well, every so often. So it was all propaganda, heavy propaganda.
See, I had that too. I got the duck and cover, which as a child I thought was just ridiculous because I didn't really understand what a nuclear weapon was, but I knew it was quite destructive. And we were told over and over that the Soviets or the Russians, because we'd usually hear Russian more than Soviet, but the bad Russians were going to do this, and we'd have to get under the desk in school in these exercises. And I remember thinking, well, this silly desk is not going to be much protection.
Yeah, especially they kept showing Hiroshima, in Japan, what happened to the people. So that was played over and over in Soviet Union. To be honest, I was petrified. I actually, the idea of American people, it was scary, We were scared, really. We thought, we really thought, like, American people are, bad people. They all hate us and everything, And, when they tell you when you're 6 or 7 years old, from this age, then you begin to believe, Of course, after, when the Soviet Union collapsed, they had to reteach us, you see. That was a big one for them. You see, they made so much effort to think differently.
So, how old were you when the collapse happened?
I was 16. I remember that day. We were on the street, and the fellow said, "That's it." We were speechless. We were like, we didn't know what to say, And, everybody regrets. I was down. Everybody was down,
Right,
everybody.
because
I'm saying that, probably like, few ethnic groups, they celebrated, like Lithuanians, because they had some clashes over there. But I think majority of the Soviet people, they were down. We couldn't accept it, really.
Well, obviously,
and the way they presented to us, like on the media. So basically, we were defeated. They say it was all. The Cold War was over because the West defeated us. So they turned out to be they were stronger. The West was stronger. But I think we have such a mentality. We don't like to be defeated. You see, we are very, very stubborn people.
Well, you've also been told how terrible these Americans are, who
Yes.
Yeah.
That was. You mentioned, the ego. This ego. The ego hurts. We didn't like to be defeated. You see. But the way they played it on the media, that you see the war in Afghanistan, you see, brought us down, and they say that America, well, partially it's true, yeah, America was doing a bit. CIA, they were financing Mujahideen movement. It is true, but the way they say that Soviet Union was defeated because of the war in Afghanistan. The way they say that war in Afghanistan crippled our economy. You know,
Okay,
back
so
then I didn't have any economic education, but I didn't buy it. You know.
Well, in the background of everything that's happening, you've got glasnost. That Gorbachev is introducing this concept of transparency within the government, and then perestroika. So you've got what was conveyed to the West, because I remember this. This is conveyed to us as, oh, look, the Soviet Union is taking steps. See how they're not quite so terrible because, look, there's glasnost, there's perestroika.
Yes.
But yet to you it's conveyed as a flat-out loss.
Yes, it was.
That's interesting.
Yeah, that is to be remember. This defeat, they use that later to bring back Putin. You see, this humiliation that we felt humiliated, you know, and during the 90s, they played that humiliation, you know. This is to remember. This is, you know, right now many Russians, they feel like revenge. They feel like, you know, we have to do revenge against the West. You see, it's the Western people. They give a weaponry to Ukrainians. You see, Ukrainians are traitors. You see, they betrayed our history. You see, they betrayed without Second World War against the Germans. Now they betrayed us. You see, they take in Western weaponry. They take Western support, whatever, you know. And we're trying to restore our mighty. You see.
Well, why don't you, from your perspective, talk a little bit about Ukraine? And you said you're right there next to them, and they're the same as you, the same accent, etc.
There's no difference, you know. There's no difference really between Russians and Ukrainians, except you know, there is one pronounce. We say ge, they say he, that's all. And when they talk in Russian, it's the same thing. And if they say he, you would think that they're not necessarily from Ukraine. They could be from south of Russia, from Krasnodar region, from Voronezh region. All those regions, they speak with the same kind of accent, you see. Before war in Ukraine, actually, I think more than half Ukrainians, if not majority, they spoke Russian. But you see, since the war started, many pro-Russians, they become pro-Ukrainians, even though they were pro-Russians during 2014, you know, when the Crimea was taken. A lot of them, they were pro-Russians. But when Putin started war in 22, a lot of them in solidarity, they become pro-Ukrainians, and a lot of them in solidarity, they started to speak Ukrainian. They started to use Ukrainian language. In fact, I've met few Ukrainians here, quite a lot of them here in Ireland, Ukrainian refugees. Quite few of them, they refuse to talk in Russian to me. But when they talk in Ukrainians, I know they talk, that's not their native language. Like I met a woman, she refused to talk in Russian to me. She told me that she is from Kiev. Kiev mostly speak Russian area. And I know exactly how pure Ukrainian sounds. I knew that she is mixing Russian words and Ukrainian words, you know. But I know that she does it on purpose because she wants to express herself that she see me as a Russian, even though I'm saying that I'm not supporting war or whatever. She wants to make sure that she doesn't speak Russian to me, you know.
Interesting.
Yes. So that's, you see, that's what the point I brought here now. It's actually debunk entire propaganda that is given by Russian government and Western alternative media. You see, they kept sharing, they kept saying that Russian speaking people are in danger in Ukraine, and Putin came and to protect them from the Nazis, you see.
Right.
It is not true, it is not true. So it's all propaganda, So for 3 years now, I'm trying to wake a Western atmosphere, Western alternative.
Well, can you, because, you see, it is actually impossible to get any kind of truth or perspective on this situation, because we've got the mainstream media here in the U.S., which gives us nothing except how evil Putin is.
Yes.
And then we've got the alternative, who sometimes holds Putin up as a hero or someone who is protecting values like, for instance, religion, and he's anti-woke, and he's anti-having his country flooded.
But you see, it's all scripted. It's all part of the same script, you see.
Well, take us through this and help us to understand, because we get two sides of propaganda, and I know it's not true, and we're not hearing anything truthful about what's actually going on in that war.
I tell you, picture this, 2014. Picture me back then. I wasn't awake. I was celebrating when they took Crimea back. I was so euphoric. I had a picture of Putin in my car. Yeah. You see, back then I was semi-researcher, you see. I was watching Russia Today, YouTube. I was watching UK Column and so on and on, Western alternative media. And of course, back then, a lot of them, they were pro-Russian, and I didn't know the truth. I didn't know, I was searching, but I couldn't find where, So it seems to me it was the truth, So I remember that day in supermarket in Aldi, there is a Ukrainian man, he was working there. We were friendly always, and after my shopping, I see somebody knocking my window in the car. I opened the window and that was him. And he was angry. I said, what's going on, mate? What's wrong? And he was pointing at the picture of Putin. And guess what? We ended up arguing. I swear it was hour and a half.
Really?
It was hour and a half. He had a red face and sweating. I had a red face and sweating. Guess what? The entire conversation was whatever he picked up from his Ukrainian propaganda, it was in his mind. And I was saying exactly the same thing what I heard from YouTube then, from pro-Russian channels, And guess what? We ended up just, look, we have to go, we're going nowhere, But after that conversation, I was thinking a lot, I was like, I didn't have really my own opinion there, Everything I said to him, I learned from YouTube, from internet. I'm not really a TV watcher, but everything I learned from Russian YouTube. He watched YouTube or whatever TV, Of course, I watched close war from, actually, like Russian man. I used to watch war documentaries, the real images, like any Russian man. I watched entire war, how it started, how it was, militia was taking weaponry, I was following the leaders, I was following this leader, Alexei Mozgovoi, But, back then, if Putin wanted to go ahead to Kiev, back then, Ukrainian army pretty much didn't exist. But by some reason, he didn't go ahead. And a lot of us Russian patriots, we were questioning, what's the point to have a war? And then pro-Russian leaders, they began to die one after another, including Alexei Mozgovoi. I was fan of him, And I've done researches, and I found a letter here when he wrote a letter before he passed away. He was assassinated,
He was assassinated.
He was assassinated, and he had a few assassination attempts. Basically, I watched a few of his interviews. He was saying that what we've done here, we've done it for nothing. It doesn't matter. He was a leader of LNR, Lugansk region. He said, it doesn't matter what flag is here, Ukrainian flag or Russian flag here. There is nothing changed, he said. Nothing changed. And he said, we are killing each other here. We're slaughtering each other. And he said, I predict a big war they want to make. It's going to be a big, massive slaughter. And what he was offering to Ukrainians, we should, kind of shake hands. And he said that you should go to Kiev and sort out your government, and we should go to Moscow and sort out the Russian government, really. So he was saying that stop the fight. And he was very respected militiaman. He was very charismatic. So it was.
Well, what is the thought about? He was found guilty of this plot to murder some family. I mean, is this something that you know about, or?
No, I didn't hear about this plot. No.
It was said that he was posthumously, so after he was assassinated, he was found guilty. So we have to assume that some.
I wouldn't be surprised if it was fabricated. You see.
Okay.
Because there is no issue there to fabricate anything at all in those republics, and especially something to do with the Russian government, And so, basically, back then, I saw there is that war is not going anywhere, and there is something on in here, and basically, I give up on it. I give up. Back then, I was following a lot of Syrian war, but I was tired from it. I came to the conclusion that I don't know nothing about it really. So I give up. I give up researching, and I had Alan Watts saved on my hard drives, and I saved him for study. And I began to study Alan Watts.
Why had you? Mikhail, why had you saved his stuff on your hard drive? When did you do that, and why?
So I began my truth seeking from Canadian fellow JFC. He was my first teacher.
Who?
So I got so many insights from him.
Who was that?
So he was very good. He was just a streetwise truth seeker.
Who was the Canadian?
He was Canadian. He was a JFC. JFC. That was his nickname. JFC.
JFC.
Jeff C.
Oh, Jeff C. Okay.
Mm-hmm. So
I think maybe it was you that told me about him. I've listened to a couple of things of his. I don't know how I came across. Yeah.
He was well known. He was actually very good at exposing all the psyops on YouTube. He passed away. Is this the same guy we're talking about? Yeah, they say that, he was assassinated, but of course it's hard to prove, but, he passed away during lockdown. They say that he was complaining in pounding headaches for many weeks, and he was very young. He wasn't old, So he was my first teacher. I began to listen to him, 2012. He exposed Alex Jones. He was one of the first to expose him. JFC exposed flat Earth psyop. He actually exposed it, like he named the reason why they pushing flat Earth across internet. So basically,
what was the reason that he named?
The reason basically they want to destroy the credibility of truth seekers. You see. That is the main reason, In fact, I could tell you that, for example, when I was here during lockdown, I was in the hospital. I came with my kidney stone. When they were trying to, nurse, she was trying to kind of push me for a PCR test, and I just refused. I say to her, I don't think it's necessary for me to do the PCR test. And she called me, oh, you are one of this flat earther. Huh? And then all night nurses were coming to me and they were writing something. I guarantee they were, checking if I'm okay, if one of these flat earthers, This is how it works, So basically, they think that, if you're a truth seeker, you are not you're a flat earther,
Okay.
But anyway, the JFC, he has done it brilliantly. I have his video. It's 3 hours comprehensive course how exactly flat earth is working. And it's working very well. In fact, during lockdown, many talking heads from Britain, they were so popular across the internet. And when I was researching about them, all of them were in the same documentary. I think it was a BBC documentary. I can't remember. But all of them, they were in that documentary about flat earthers, And they were showing these images of people protesting on the streets. They were demanding government tell the truth that the float is flat,
So just to, so that I can understand that, I'm going to repeat what I think I heard you say, which is that the leading dissidents in the UK against lockdowns were indeed promoting flat earth and saying that the government should tell the truth about this.
Yeah, one of this leader, I can't remember what's his name. He's a black fella. He was very charismatic. He was shared across the internet. All his short videos, they were everywhere. He was so good, Mm-hmm. But then I watched, it was entire documentary about him, on the mainstream media, how he, he's with a telescope in the ocean trying to see prove that the earth is flat, whatever, So they make the whole thing ridiculous, Mm-hmm. Anyway, we go back to, you asked me about Alan Watt. I say that I started from JFC. Of course, I watched Alex Jones there and there. I found documentary. It was a prison planet. So it was an interview of Alan Watt. I knew that the man, he knew his stuff. I just knew it. I saved it on hard drive. And then I researched it. I found more audios about him. Back then on YouTube, if you type Alan Watt, you see many videos and audios. YouTube was full of Alan Watt back then. If you type Alan Watt now, you see Alan Watts.
Mikhail, I saw the same thing, and people who are looking for him now won't understand this, but years ago, but before I met Alan, and also when I was early in Canada, it was exactly the same thing. If you type in Alan Watt, you're going to come up with all kinds of his audios and everywhere. And now it's only Alan Watts. And what I've discovered is that if I put in CTTM, Alan Watt, or cutting through the matrix, Alan Watt, then I'm much more successful. But this Alan Watts, the philosopher / entertainer, was never in his lifetime. He was not, I mean, yes, he was known, absolutely, he had a reputation, et cetera, but he wasn't your go-to guy for Zen Buddhism or any, Eastern philosophy or anything.
Yeah,
he wasn't
a kind of New Ager.
He was definitely New Ager, but what I'm saying is of the people that you could look to during that time in the 60s and the 70s, he wouldn't necessarily be the go-to guy there. And ditto for after his death. I have no doubts, this may sound paranoid, but there's no doubt in my mind that as Alan Watt ', popularity increased in the patriot / truther community because he made sense and he was telling truth. There was an actual concerted effort. It's clear if you look at Watts, the Englishman, the New Ager, and you see the quality of videos that have been made just in the last, say, decade, it's clear to me that there is a concerted, well-organized effort to produce him at a high level and bury Alan Watt.
That's correct. I call it Operation Kill the Messenger. They've done it so well. So basically, it's algorithms. They kill him by algorithms. It is different. When you type Alan Watt, you get different algorithm. And I tell you examples. During lockdown, I was following many Telegram channels. I see they were picking up. For example, I share Alan Watt audio or video. They share it on their channel. And I see the comments. He's very good. He makes sense. Okay? And then, of course, they go and search on YouTube, Alan Watt. And I see the next day they're sharing Alan Watts. And then, I was thinking how they can't hear the difference, the voices, you know. I was wondering, you know. But it works like a charm, you know, algorithms.
That's interesting.
In fact, I just mentioned algorithms, you know. I think now the entire Trufa community is basically run by by algorithms, you know. I understand it so well. You know me, you probably see me. I know how to click, you know, and I know how to play with algorithms, you know.
Well, can I just say here, Mikhail, that you have started several successful things, and your current venture right now is a Telegram channel, and by your understanding of algorithms, you have built your channel to almost 39,000 subscribers. So,
Melissa, I had 50,000 subscribers.
Wow.
Do you know when I had a big drop?
No.
Exactly when the war started.
Interesting.
I was the first one, and probably the one who said to people, I've done analysis right in a few minutes. I knew, you know, I predicted with precision. I said, this war is going to be for years to come. Eventually, they're going to drag this war into Russian territory, which is now two regions occupied by Ukrainian forces, you know. And I said to people, don't get euphoric about it. I said to people, I was sharing, you know, post after post after post, I was saying that this is our opportunity, you see. You know, I presented to people as an opportunity. If we see, when they started this war, exactly, if you remember, it was exactly this moment when they were closing down all the COVID restrictions. It was country after country after country, and people were like, just like that. There's no more COVID, there's no more lockdowns, that's it, we're free, you know. And at that very moment, bam, there's a war. Very, very moment. After one crisis just were finishing, they created another crisis. So I saw they created crisis. They created a lot of opportunities for the big boys. To bring more austerity, basically, because of this war. But I saw opportunity. I saw it as opportunity for all the anti-lockdown people to understand that this is opportunity to reach out to the public. This is actually a shortcut to reach out to the public, to gain public trust. See, that's what I'm aiming all the time, at public trust. Just imagine only if, the entire anti-lockdown movement came out, I don't know, on the streets or shared on the social media, we are neutral, we are against this war. You know, knowing what the public is going to think against this war. Public, they were outraged. They were angry with this war. They were angry with Putin, you know. So I said to people, this is the moment to use this situation to gain the trust from the public. Majority of the public here in Ireland, they against this war, they against Putin. And the same in UK, the same in America. So that was our chance to stay neutral, not to choose sides. At least do some proper analysis, see how big boys are going to benefit from this war, and maybe to show some voices against this war, it doesn't have to be like massive protests, whatever, but at least to create kind of public opinion manipulation, so to gain some trust from the public, You see, during lockdown, all the governments, they were using media, mainstream media, to manipulate public opinion around us when we were going on protests. You see, every time we go on a protest, they show on images about us. They call it super spreader event, or those people they try, whatever, So I remember I myself went to a few protests until I realized the whole thing was just organized kind of thing, and after every protest, they would, they write down the big article they showed on the 6 o'clock news, and they show all those anti-lockdown lunatics. They did, whatever. But I say to people, this war is your opportunity to reach out to the public. I think we should try to reach out to the public. If we don't, then we're going to be separated. We're going to be divided. And I saw this war as opportunity to reach out to the public, you see. Anyway, going back to my algorithms, they were dropping by thousands. It was like 1,000 a week or something, when I spoke out against the war. Because all the people, they were going on different channels, and they were getting algorithms from so-called alternative media, from the Shills, basically, And they were telling them otherwise. They were saying that, look, this war, Putin had no choice. He was cornered. If not now, it was a time for him to go and, protect Russians. UK column played a major part on it, And Alex Jones, InfoWars, Mike Adams, networks, and on. I can't even remember now.
Well, you see, the interesting thing is that ultimately I'm not so familiar with the UK column. I mean, I certainly know who's behind it, who started it, etc., but I don't listen to them regularly. Frankly, I don't listen to Mike Adams or Alex Jones, but I can speak to the fact that I know that Alex and Mike Adams are encouraging people to vote. Now, if that's going on with the UK column, in other words, what you've got is you're going to move you into a direction where your only recourse is participating in the system.
Yes. Well, you see, like UK column, in my view, is just well prepared government, COINTELPRO organization. I've listened to them many years. I know Brian, I know all of them. I could tell you when Gemma Doherty was pushing PSYOP in Ireland, in alternative media in Ireland, I probably was the only guy who spotted it. I dedicated my own time. You see, I have opportunity. I drive trucks. I drive truck for 12, 13 hours a day. I have plenty of time to listen, whoever I choose to listen. And I had plenty of time to listen to Gemma Doherty. And I remember that was September 22, she came out with the first video she made. And all of a sudden, that was actually the time when the Irish government proposed hate speech bill. And anti, like it was including anti, So back then, 22 September, she said that she made her research. She didn't know before, but now she knows. And it was almost like ultimatum. If you refuse to blame the real enemy, which she said it was, then you are not the truther, she says, After that video, it was video after video after video about she learned more. She kept saying, and she started to invite all the other Shills. And guess what? She made video with UK column with Brian about the same subject. Except at that video, Brian he was careful. He was calling them those people, right? And the way people were writing in comments, Brian, he did a good job, Finally, he's exposing them, but of course, he can't call them the way they are, UK column was part of it. And I was sharing short videos about it. I was saying, look, UK column joining this whole psyop. After that, Gemma, Gemma did? She created drama. She started playing UK column, as if they this and that. You could find it on your BitChute channel. Basically,
she stopped what?
She started to kind of blackmail in UK column after that, But that goes to show you, COINTEL people, governments, they watch what you share, and they watch if you understand PSYOP. When you understand PSYOP, they try to make another PSYOP out of it,
This is a really big one, Mikhail,
Yes.
Because what you're talking about with Gemma, there's a similar, she hasn't gone quite so, bold with it, but in the U.S., there's Candace Owens.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you know her. She is African American, started on Fox. I don't follow all these things that closely, but she was linked up with, Benjamin, I don't remember his last, Shapiro. That's it. Ben Shapiro, and whatever network he had going. And she is portrayed now as an increasing loose cannon, but she still has a lot of viewers that come out of the conservative alternative, and she pushes those talking points in her own way. And then where do people end up? They follow, and they're called the haters.
Yes. You see, I listen a lot of them, out of my head I can't remember the names, but I tell you, basically, a lot of them, they, audio, video after video, post after post, their chats, they all infected with this kind of hatred, with a manipulation towards anger, So they like Gemma Doherty in one of the videos, she said herself, and she said it proudly, you see, they,
which is ridiculous, as Alan would say, you're not afraid.
Yeah, that's it. And in fact, she said, on BitChute, she said, look, BitChute is censoring me, whatever. Look, if you type Gemma Doherty on BitChute, you can't find Gemma Doherty. No. When you go to BitChute, Gemma Doherty will be suggested. If you type Gemma Doherty, she'll pop up straight away, So all this manipulation, you see. But anyway, this is what they're trying to do. They're trying to make people even more angry. They want people, they know that many people are unprepared, you see. They want people to pick up the same kind of talks.
Yes.
And share this kind of stuff. So they make it out of potential resistance. They want to make them sort of extremists, you see.
So, and I think this is important, just to move away from Gemma and what we've been talking about. This, when you said she laid down the gauntlet and said, if you're not blaming them, then
it was like ultimatum.
The ultimatum. And you see, there are people that I have enjoyed some of the information that they have put out around. And I don't think it's important to name the names here, but I've thought, okay, that seems like a good, interesting thing there and worth knowing about. But the other day I heard someone talking, And he was telling people in about an 18-minute video how to spot whether you were getting, if you had controlled opposition talking to you about. Mm-hmm. And he had several things that he was using. If they don't, and this is what, if they don't talk about these things, then they're controlled opposition. And a couple of them that I remember was he was referencing a population chart that had come out where they were talking about declining population, and that was the trend. So we were trending downwards, we were trending towards more deaths, we were trending towards less births. The second thing that he brought up, if they don't talk about drug overdoses from, say, fentanyl and opioid crisis and all of that, then, and they just want to blame everything on fallout, etc., then you know that you're looking at controlled opposition. And his third feature was if they don't talk about oxygen poisoning. In other words, if they're controlled, because and then he goes on to explain oxygen poisoning. Well, I never heard of the oxygen poisoning until I was talking with JP and Julie from Book of Hours, and she mentioned someone. I now don't remember who she mentioned, and I probably won't go back and listen to the talk again to try to figure it out, but she was saying that this person had really opened her eyes to this, that this explained so much. But my response, my reaction in listening to this fellow talk is he is unwittingly playing into something that is destructive and divisive and confusing. Because all of us have a limited amount of time and attention where we can turn it. And so the fact that you don't talk about these things does not necessarily make you controlled opposition. Oh. It may make you a sincere person who's speaking out on the angles that you have the time to investigate. Plain and simple, bottom line.
You see, I tell you, they are learning faster, the Shills, the control opposition. They are learning faster than we are truthers.
Yes.
They are getting so creative with it.
Yeah.
I give you example. So there is another Shill here in Ireland. She was in the mainstream media, Ashley and O'Loughlin. So one moment she was in the mainstream media promoting and vegan diet, and during lockdown all of a sudden she became a truther, you see. And guess what? Coincidentally, it's just a coincidence. She became a flat earth pusher, But anyway, she was sharing a lot of my stuff, whatever, I didn't ask her to share. But when I started to expose Gemma Doherty, by the way, I exposed her I call her for the flat earth. This is not how you wake Irish people, Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, you were on TV. And now you're pushing for a flat earth. Where that came from? Who told you that, And now you're so certain about it, and you're making it so most important thing to talk about flat earth,
Mm-hmm.
Huh? So I was exposing Gemma Doherty, and she picked it up as well. So she started exposing her what I was exposing. And they made exchange with each other. It was as if it was kind of war between two of them, So they split people into fractions, you see.
Yes. And this is the important part of it, and this is why you have to think for yourself. And I think right now, because what you're saying is they are getting much slicker about this. This is happening. It's unfolding instantly in real time as they gather algorithms, they see what people are looking at, and they see what people are talking. And, remember how Alan Watt would say that truth is like diving off the cliff without the parachute, Yes. It's the controlled opposition, the Shills, can only affect your mind when you reach out and try to get a little branch on the cliff on your way down.
And I was kind of surprised when David from omnivores when he mentioned about amazing Polly. If you could find her YouTube channel, her latest video, she was on about Gemma Doherty, promoting Gemma Doherty, you see.
Yeah, I did not want to counter him on that one, nor do I necessarily really want to get into this, because I'll tell you something, Mikhail. There are people that have bought armies, and when they put their sights on you, they're going to make your life hellish. And what I did at the end of that conversation, I illustrated it in the video, and I supplied 2 angles to that argument. And I simply encourage people to go and do the homework themselves there in that area. It's all out there. You can have the pro side and the con side, and you can figure out for yourself what you're looking at. For me, all I needed to know there was that first of all, I had the benefit of watching her with Alan. So that's a huge benefit. The second thing is I saw that we go from no nonsense, plain truth facts that get exposed, and then all of a sudden there's the promotion of all of the QAnon content. That went on for years. So, but that's, when we expose people like this, Mikhail, when we talk about people like this, I think it's very important to say to people, you've got to do the homework yourself.
Yes.
This is war. It's a war for your mind, and if you want to hold on to your own mind, you've got to go out and do the homework. All of these arguments, that the danger of flat Earth is that danger, like I've said very clearly, I don't really care, not one way or the other. The idea, though, is that it puts your focus somewhere where your focus is not that effective, because at the end of the day, what difference does it make, the universe and the shape of it, when all of your rights are taken away from you?
Fighting establishment. Absolutely.
No. And when all of your rights are being taken away from you, you're under total surveillance. The surveillance now is not something that's just you can opt out of. And you also have the technocratic controls are in place, as I did get into discussing with David, that is biodigital control of your body. So when the stakes are that high, really, why are we talking about a flat Earth or a no germ?
Yes. And much more stuff,
And much more stuff.
Nonsense, basically,
Yeah.
The techniques are getting better and better. They make it more and more ridiculous, and you see, and that's why, I explain you my tactics, maybe I shouldn't, it's everyone, but my tactic, why I'm doing what I'm doing with my Telegram, okay? So, I understand very well, how people now go into internet. They just go, they want to click fast, okay? We have to understand this and use it as well, okay? They like short videos, they do. They like to go and click, because there are so many shield channels, like Surgeon Network, for example, and the other ones. They have thousands and thousands of subscribers. So they constantly feeding people with this, short videos. People get addicted to it. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to hijack the algorithms. And in between, I'm sharing Alan Watt videos, audios. Maybe some occasional thinker will say, oh, it makes sense. I want to study it, So I make sure I provide link in there. So he knows straight away where to go. The website is over there. In fact, maybe that is the first transcript I just shared a couple of days ago on, this Alan Watt on technology total control.
I saw that. I saw that. Yeah.
I've seen the first transcript of from Alan Watt went over 6,000.
Wow, that's great.
When I go into transcript, I read it and I find something that will catch people's attention. You see, I copy and paste it, And when people are clicking, the people are click, video, this, that, or they see, oh, I want to read it, That's interesting. Basically what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to hijack the algorithms, you see. Well, I'm trying to make, not boring as well, maybe some funny video, maybe some other video, some weather event or something like that. But in between, I always put Alan Watt. Either I spend time to make a video editing, a little, like 3 or 4 minutes, or like audio or transcript. So I'm trying to capture, occasional thinker who is seeking the truth, who is interested, who reads in between lines. I'm not trying to bury it. I'm trying to actually hijack the algorithms, because many people just go and click, they just click on Telegram, click, from one channel to another, And I want to encourage other people as well to create Telegram channels and manipulate algorithms. That's the only way we can break through the algorithms, because all the algorithms, they put them in such a way that you can't find truth seekers. You only find Shills immediately. So, as you see on your chat, you saw me what I was trying to do. I played with algorithms a little bit, I didn't do it for myself. I just maybe gave people idea, I was hoping maybe someone, it's a good idea. Alan Watt transcript, copy and paste, there is a couple of sentences, you post it in some other channel and make it viral, you see.
Well, actually now that you say that, I was going to put that over on the X site, because I don't think about this kind of thing really. I just do what I do, and I always think about the way that Alan approached it. It's always only for the individual, because all of this is out there. Is it getting more intense? Yes. Are the stakes seemingly higher now? Yes, they are. But only an individual who is changed and is a new person, so to speak, is going to be able to effectively marshal something to counter this. It's not a group and the mass mind that goes into these.
I personally, I don't join the groups. I'm not a group person. I'm like a loner all my life. I don't join groups, and what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to give people ideas how to share Alan Watt's work. You see, my point is this: if we don't manipulate algorithms with real work, then people won't get information. When people don't have information, war in Ukraine is a proof. People, you see, war in Ukraine could be victory for anti-lockdown movement. But people, they were deprived from information. They were misled by algorithms. You see how they produce so many Shills, so many talking heads. They were talking the same thing all over internet. But you see, they produce so many of them for algorithms. You see, wherever you go, you click, it's their talking heads over there, And they deprive people from real information. You see. Only if at that moment when the war started, enough people could share enough truth, we could possibly break through. It is possible, but it is hard work. It's a lot of clicking, it's a lot of talking, it's a lot of sharing. We need more people who can talk. For example, talking is not I'm not good at it, you know. My specialty is clicking, right? I know how to manipulate algorithms. This is my good part, but we need people talking about Alan Watt stuff. Actually,
I got a letter from...
We need people to make analysis like Alan Watt used to do, you know?
Yes. I got a letter from somebody yesterday, I think, or the day before, and they wrote, I think the Internet Archive hack and also hacks of the British Library, Seattle Public Library, Toronto and Calgary Public Libraries is the most underreported story of October so far. We can see where this is going with the dusty old books eventually disappearing, not only in hard copy in public libraries, but digitally online as well. And I think that this is what it is. You know, sometimes people will ask me, what was a book that Alan referenced, or when he said this, where can they find that in a book? And everybody who's read Alan's books knows that he didn't approach this like an academic with an index and references and so forth. But I think you've just hit on the key thing there, where you're going to have some people who still like the long form, where you and I have been talking, and we're probably going to wrap this up quickly, but we've been talking for about an hour and 15 minutes. And I'd be happy to talk to you for another hour and 15 minutes, but the long form is something that people don't have they don't have the attention span for, and they want it all. I mean, what Alan would say is they want the truth and the solution in a 2-minute soundbite, and I would say now that they don't even have the 2-minute attention span. So if you combine the fact that the dusty old books are, you know, they're weeded from the libraries at an incredibly rapid pace, and then you have things that we did just witness this month with these hacks of the digital libraries. It's what you've just said there is we need people to do the analysis. So yes, finding Alan is great, and tucking him in the algorithms and finding ways to share his work and spread the transcripts and put the videos out there, that is important. But being able to think for yourself,
that is the main thing, yeah.
That is the main thing, because as this intensifies, and it will, we're going to have, over the course of the next year, I suggest that we're going to have 1 or 2 really major, very scary crises that we're under. And the ability to think in real time what is going on and who wants me to think this way and why are they saying this.
You see, like in my example, I tell you my example. For many years, I used to listen Alan Watt. You know, the only way you can get Alan Watt, what he's talking about, his analysis, the only way you can get it if you really, really, really get interested into it. You know, I could not wait to get up in the morning and go into my truck and turn on Alan Watt and listen to him all day. I was like, next, and then I re-listen it again and again, and then I listened it before, but now I understand it differently. You see? You see, I came to this point now. I remember Alan Watt used to kind of suggest. He said that when you start your morning, you know, this system, this matrix goes with, you know, notification survey, boop, boop, zoop, zoop. It's already, this matrix wants piece of your mind, you know, straight away. He said you should be able to be in your own company, in your own thinking. And I learned it from him. Now, if I drive truck, maybe my first 3 or 4 hours I drive with my toes. You know, because what I managed to reformat my thinking with Alan Watt work. I do analysis in my head constantly. This is what I do. for myself. And
See, that's why
I want to share Alan Watt to others, so they can do the same to themselves, and they have more understanding. And the more of us understand more, the more chances we have turn things around.
That's right, because it isn't. You see, Alan would call this constantly seeking input. What is so and so saying? What is so and so saying? Okay, what is so and so exposing, and so forth. He would call that barely out of level 1. You're really not out of level 1, and yet all of these people will run around saying, yeah, I'm awake, I know what's going on, I know what's happening, and so forth. But it's the ability to see it for yourself and to make it make sense for yourself that is all
make
that
your
matters.
Own analysis.
That's right.
Analysis.
That's the only thing that matters.
You don't depend on anyone. I shared this one. I listened to this one. I listened James Corbett. I listen to him. Listen to that. No, you listen to me. This is what I think here.
Yeah.
No?
That's right.
Be interested. I have something interesting to tell you. In fact, during lockdown, I thought I was the only one walking around shops without mask. And I met Irish man, and he looked at me and he said, look, you without mask. And we talked there, we talked forever, you see. But you see, our thinking was different, because I was saying what I think and he was saying what he watched on BitChute. And he kept saying me, that channel, you should watch this channel, that and that and that and that. And that was his topic of conversation, And I realized that, the man is not thinking for himself yet, But I was thinking, if you continue to watch so much BitChute, I don't recommend people go on BitChute so much, because it's a dangerous zone. If you recollect event, what their main focus was, to kill the messenger. They were focusing. Number one threat for them was disinformation. What they mean is people are seeking the truth.
Yes.
And they well thought about us. They well prepared for it. And so they created all these platforms. They contaminated those platforms with massive disinformation. So that's why I don't recommend people go on BitChute. I only recommend people go and read Alan Watt's work. And by the way, if you do study Alan Watt's work, you don't have to read books. You start only with his transcripts and his blogs. That's the only way you start. You get him, because he'll put it together. He'll mention every book and he'll put it together. He'll give you shortcuts, you see.
And
you
Mikhail?
listen his blurbs, you read his transcripts, and then when you think you're ready to read a book, then you go read this book. But I'm not sure if we have a time.
We don't, that's it.
You said it in your previous videos. What am I doing? Do we have a time? I've heard.
Well, and just the redux that I put up a couple of weeks ago, and this was Alan talking in, I don't know, 2012 maybe, or 10 or 8, At that time, he said, we don't really have time for long, leisurely studies. Yeah.
He said it a few times. He said, I give you shortcuts, folks, so you don't bash your heads against the wall, which is happening now across the internet.
Yeah.
There are so many good people, We're talking about those, those people on Telegram have 1,000 subscribers. They're sharing, but a lot of them, they don't know anything else except.
That's right.
Yeah, I know. I follow them. You have to give them credit. There are only few of them. They managed to do the work. They managed to kind of, create suspicious in people against it. We have to give them credit, but unfortunately, they don't see the bigger picture.
No. It's that falling off the cliff that I'm talking about. instead of when you are grabbing hold of somebody you find on BitChute or wherever, and then you're spitting out what that person said, you've grabbed a branch on the way down your fall off the cliff. And the only way that you can get the wings and fly is if you can think for yourself.
Exactly.
Nothing else will work. And I can tell where people's heads are by what they give me back, like in an email or a message. If they, and a lot of them do send me link after link of stories, and it's good. I appreciate being let know to know what's going on and who's saying what. But a lot of times their attitude with it is, oh, what a terrible world this is, and look at this horrible thing that's going on, see this. And I think to myself, well, if you were spitting back to me something that Alan said in a talk, or something that he put in, that you found in his transcript, you would be better protected against this.
Yes.
That would be the first real big step in being able to analyze it and put it together for yourself. And that's all that matters.
What Alan Watts said clearly and few times, until you understand it fully, you can do nothing about it.
Mm-hmm.
You have to really, really understand what is going on.
But you're right, he gave us shortcuts.
Only then you can do something about it,
Yeah.
This is apply for everyone, for every individual. So for that, it is up to you to do the homework.
It is. And he did, you said it, he gave us shortcuts, lots of shortcuts. And
they over there, they're not difficult. He made it so easy for ordinary folk to digest it, Mm-hmm. It's not boring. It's so interesting to listen to him. His voice, his articulation. When you read him, in his blurbs, he is talking to ordinary folk.
Yes.
He had so much regard. So many times he said, there is no useless people. Every person is, value for society.
Mm-hmm.
I was, the man, he had so much knowledge. I was a little bit embarrassed, because I'm not really, that knowledgeable to talk to him, but he made me feel so comfortable,
Well, that's the key thing.
When you listen Alan Watt, if you really, what you need to do is to become interested, spark your interest, and you'll get it. What I recommend to people to go on a drive, for example, wherever they go to work, whatever. You go on drive and listen to Alan Watt instead of listening to the radio. The only way to get Alan Watt to listen to him every day. Blurb, 2 blurbs, 3 blurbs, as much as you can.
Yeah.
And then come back come back home and read a transcript, what you've heard.
Well, I think that's really good. I have to get going here. As I've mentioned to you, I've got all these little personal things happening today at the moment. But I think we should, in the new year, schedule a time for you to come back, and because what we didn't have time to get into is what's going on in Ireland and the immigration and all of that.
There's so much to talk about.
Yes.
About it. We need to wake more people about this, because I could see many dangers are coming. In my view, the entire movement is hijacked. There are many good people around, but unfortunately they didn't do enough work, and it's better for them to know more.
I tell you something else.
We have to educate them.
We do. And I'll tell you something else, Mikhail, too, is that we can have, if you want to, we can just record 10 minutes from time to time, because I really do think that this shorts idea that I had is one that I'd like to invest a little more time into, because otherwise, I can't schedule something with you until, probably February, but we can have just 10 minutes of saying, This is what I see in Ireland, and this is 2 lines from an Alan Watt transcript and how it all ties together. See? You know, and if
I was thinking about them. The shorts are very important because, you know, short messages, they're very important.
So we'll work on that.
When people tired from work, when they see that message, that's probably enough in the evening.
Yeah.
You know, short, but right to the point.
That's right. Well, I thank you so much for taking the time at the end of your day.
Thank you for listening to me. Yeah. I appreciate so much what you do.
Well, thank you. I really enjoyed this very much. I thank you for taking the time with me. And I don't have my calendar in front of me, but I do believe I can say with some confidence that next week I'll be talking with Sierra, and she's going to talk about clean blood. And yes, and Sierra, this is great. I've just spoken to her once before, but she is married to a longtime listener of Alan's whose name I knew. And when I spoke with her on the phone a few weeks ago, I learned that her brother has been a long-time listener of Alan's too, and I always find that, I come across people all the time who say, oh yeah, my mother and my brother and my, you know, so she's one who's coming from a family of Alan listeners, and she is working on clean blood projects, and I think that will be interesting. So thanks again, Mikhail.
Thank you very much, Lisa. Thank you.
All right.
I'll talk to you again.
Okay.
I've got something that the world didn't give me, and the world cannot take it away. And I've got something